Ones of a prominent civil rights attorney will say their final goodbyes.
J. Mason Davis Jr. passed away over the weekend at the age of 90. During his time fighting against segregation and in favor of civil rights, he would go on to teach law at the same school that wouldn't let him in at first, and that would be the University of Alabama. WVTM 13's Aaron Llewellyn had a chance to speak with Davis's son and daughter tonight about his legacy. Aaron, what is the one thing they want people to know about their dad?
Yeah, God, Carla, J. Mason Davis Jr.'s family said that his death was a bit of a surprise. He says that his son, Jay III, says he came and sat with his dad the day before he passed, but he thought he had more time with him. Now his children are both holding on to the memories of a man who was more than just a well-known civil rights attorney. To many people, J. Mason Davis Jr. was a civil rights attorney who helped change Alabama.
That's a good one.
That's a good picture, yeah.
But to his children, he was just a dad.
I think, yeah, it is.
As they look back through photos and memories, they say the man so many admired was the same man they knew at home.
He wasn't trying to be famous. He wasn't trying to be exceptional. He was who he was, but his aim was to serve and to make a difference, and he did that.
That sense of purpose showed up not just in his work, but in the way he loved and led his family.
He looked at what was happening and it was wrong, and he knew there was no reason that it should be that way. And so he tried to do what he could do to right that.
Ka says their father taught them to go after what they wanted and never be afraid to build and live a life of their own.
He pushed me to go out and follow my dreams. And he would have loved me to just stay right here. But he let me, when I said I wanted to go to New York, he was right there behind me. And he was proud of me.
For Jay III, his father's legacy became personal.
My sister or myself, somebody had to be a lawyer. Somebody had to do it at some point, sometime, some way. I take a great deal of pride in knowing that he got to see me become a lawyer and to practice law.
But his children say some of their favorite memories have nothing to do with the courtroom.
He used to tell tall tales about when he was a little kid. He had swam the Mississippi River to get up to Chicago, Illinois to wrestle some wrestler named Charles at Last.
He was the dad who cooked breakfast, made them laugh, and turned even a holy pair of socks into a song.
Holy, 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 oh, your socks are holy.
And now, as they hold on to the stories, the photos, and the pieces of him they still see every day, they say his legacy lives on first as a father.
We're carrying on. We're looking through pictures, we're seeing things from the past, we're grasping for every little thing we can find. That's a piece of him.
Now, J. Mason Davis Jr. is also known for winning appeals cases for 125 students who were arrested during the state's first sit-in protest in Huntsville. This helped end segregation in the state. He also became the 9th black attorney in the state of Alabama. His family is preparing to lay him to rest, and those services will be held next week.